Every great NBA dynasty will always be remembered, as Golden State's been by far the most dominant team of the 2010s decade. You had Kobe and Shaq's Lakers, along with the Duncan Popovich era during the 2000s, Michael Jordan's Bulls in the 90s, the Showtime Lakers in the 80s, and the 60s Celtics are teams that will always be cherished among the all-time greats. There have also been many teams in the past that should have won titles but were haunted by injuries, bad officiating, and unfortunate incidents that occurred. How's it going, guys? My name's Wilson. It's unfortunate that a bunch of very talented star players in the league will never win a championship due to the greatness of other monster teams. Guys like Karl Malone, John Stockton, Charles Barkley, and Steve Nash, amongst others, never got over the hump. In the 2000s era, a few teams had amazing opportunities to capture a championship, but saw it slip late in the playoffs. With that said, here are 5 of the most forgotten great NBA teams in the 2000s decade that could have won a title. Starting with the 1999-2000 Portland Trail Blazers, Rip City was looking to capture its first title since 1977, led by the legendary Bill Walton. Denied by the Bad Boy Pistons and Michael Jordan's Bulls during the Clyde Drexler era, Portland lost in the first round for 6 straight seasons from 93 to 98, made it to the conference finals in 99, led by Rasheed Wallace, Damon Stoudemire, and Arvydas Sabonis. There were no big name superstars on the team, but they had plenty of depth, very physical, and a lot of size down low. Before the season, Portland traded 6 of their role players to Houston in exchange for the 6-time champion 34-year-old Scottie Pippen, led by Stoudemire, Steve Smith, Pippen, Wallace, and Sabonis as the starting 5, with Brian Grant, Greg Anthony, Deathless Shrimp, Bonzi Wells, and the very young Jermaine O'Neal coming off the bench. They were the most loaded team in basketball that year, winning 59 games. Led by head coach Mike Dunleavy, the conference finals against Kobe and Shaq was the series everybody was waiting to see. After LA took a 3-1 lead, Portland managed to win the next 2. Up by 15, the Blazers were 12 minutes away from reaching the finals, but had one of the biggest fourth quarter collapses in NBA history, missed 13 consecutive shots, including a couple missed free throws down the stretch by Rasheed Wallace, while Kobe's alley-oop to Shaq sealed the deal for the Lakers. Portland got outscored 31-13 in the final period. If it wasn't for their epic meltdown, they would have been the favorites and likely would have defeated the Pacers in the NBA Finals. The franchise has not been the same since then. The 2001-2002 Sacramento Kings, one of the most controversial series in NBA playoff history. There were plenty of calls favoring the Lakers in Game 6, where LA won by the skin of their teeth. Closing Game 7 in overtime, every diehard NBA fans remember how great the Kings were, finishing with a league-best 61 wins, led by a prime Chris Webber, who averaged 24.5 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. They were a better overall team than the Lakers, alongside veteran center Vlade Divac, a young Peja Stojakovic who averaged over 21 a game, All-NBA defender Doug Christie, and very underrated Mike Bibby, who was one of the best point guards at that time. Key players off the bench were young Hedo Turkoglu, Bobby Jackson, and Scott Pollard. The team had a very amazing play style, was 10 to 15 years ahead of their time, as everybody on the team was a great passer, similar to Golden State now, but not as talented. Always shared the ball, where their offense would never be run by only one player. Playing at the fastest pace with their free-flowing motion offense gave plenty of teams trouble, as they handled the Jazz and Mavs in the first 2 rounds pretty easily. The conference final series against the Lakers is still remembered as one of the best matchups ever, but Christie and Stojakovic combined to shoot a horrendous 4 of 23 from the field in Game 7, including 0 for 9 from 3, a loss the franchise still hasn't recovered from. In my opinion, the 2002 Kings were the best team in the 2000s that never won a championship. The 2002-2003 Dallas Mavericks. When you look back at the Mavs in the mid-2000s, 06 and 07 are probably the first 2 things that comes to mind, from losing in the tough 6-game series to Miami in the finals to getting eliminated in the first round by AC to Golden State. The 2003 Mavs were just as good as any of those Dallas teams, came out on fire, started the season 14-0, led the league in scoring for the 2nd consecutive year, took excellent care of the ball, recording an NBA record low of 11.6 turnovers a game, something that still hasn't been broken yet to this day, tied with the league best record with San Antonio, winning 60 games, led by Nowitzki's 25 points, 10 rebounds, a prime Michael Finley, Steve Nash, Rafe LaFrentz, and 6-man Nick Van Exel. After knocking off the Blazers and Kings in 2 7-game series, Dallas stole Game 1 in the conference finals against San Antonio. Nowitzki went bananas, finishing with 38 points, with high hopes in making the franchise's first NBA Finals, everything went down south with a blink of an eye when Nowitzki sprained his knee going up for a rebound in Game 3, forcing him to miss the rest of the series. Lost the next 2 games, even though Dallas did push the series to 6. San Antonio outscored them 34-9 in the 4th quarter of Game 6. Veteran Steve Kerr destroyed Dallas that game, knocking down 4 huge threes. If number 41 was healthy, there was no way Dallas would struggle like that in the 4th. I honestly think if Dirk didn't get hurt, Dallas would have had a great shot of beating San Antonio in a tough 7-game series and would easily defeat the Nets in the NBA Finals. Without a doubt, Dirk would win a title 8 years later with the Mavs, while his former teammate Steve Nash never reached the Finals. The 2003-2004 Minnesota Timberwolves. After being bounced out the first round for 7 straight seasons, GM Kevin MacLeod got busy in the summer of 03, acquiring point guard Sam Cassell, other key role players in Latrell Sprewell, Fred Hoiberg, Trenton Hassel, and Mark Matson. Minnesota clicked on all cylinders, finished with a 58-24 record, the top seed in the Western Conference. Cassell made his first All-Star appearance, while Garnett was named the league's MVP, putting up over 24 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists, dismantled the Nuggets in 5 games in the first round before beating the Kings in the tough 7-game series. Cassell, however, injured his hip a minute into Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals against LA. The Lakers won the next 2 games at home, taking a 3-1 series lead, while the second best player on the Wolves only played 5 minutes in Game 4, had to sit out the next 2 games before the Lakers closed out the series in 6. Backup point guard Troy Hudson couldn't play due to a sprained ankle, while Derek Martin was the only other point guard for the Wolves. Cassell's average of 19.8 points and 7.3 assists that season just simply couldn't be replaced. If Cassell wouldn't have gotten hurt, he knew deep down inside in his heart he would have helped the team win a championship if he only just played 30 minutes. The Lakers ended up getting destroyed by the Pistons in 5 games, while the Wolves would have had home court advantage in the finals. It would have been a very interesting, tough series. Maybe Minnesota would have beaten the Pistons, who knows, but it was the only time Garnett had any postseason success with the franchise before ending up in Boston, winning a title 4 years later alongside his buddy Cassell in 2008. If it wasn't for Sam's injury, Garnett might have remained a Timberwolves for the rest of his career. The 2004-2005 Indiana Pacers. The Malice at the Palace will always be the first thing that most people think of when it came to the mid-2000s Pacers, but that 05 team were considered legit contenders, where they might have won it all if it wasn't for the brawl. Indy started that season 9-2, were on pace to win over 60 games before everything changed. After losing to the same Pistons the season before in the tough 6-game series in the conference finals, Indy replaced Al Harrington with Steven Jackson. Ron Artest and Jermaine O'Neal were at their primes, had solid role players in Jackson, Jamal Tinsley, a 39-year-old Reggie Miller, Austin Crozier, Anthony Johnson, and Jeff Foster. Not to mention Artest was averaging 24.6 points in the peak of his basketball powers before being suspended, missing the remaining 73 games plus playoffs. That Pacers team without Ron lost to the Pistons in the semifinals in a competitive 6-game series, while Detroit knocked off Miami in 7, fell to San Antonio in the finals. The year after, Artest was traded to the Kings while O'Neal's body was ruined by injuries and wasn't the same since after 2007. Just very unfortunate for Pacers fans. That one incident could haunt the franchise for many decades. If the Malice thing didn't happen, I truly believe Indiana could have beaten San Antonio in the finals in a classic 7-game series. Just picture Artest and O'Neal against Ginobili and Duncan. How fun would that have been? We'll never know. My most honorable mention goes to the 06-07 Suns, where Amari Stoudemire and Boris Diaw was suspended for Game 5 against San Antonio after they got off the bench stepping into the court in the closing seconds of Game 4. Lost Game 5 by 3 points, where the winner of that series was pretty much guaranteed to win the championship. Thank you so much for watching this video. Of those 5 teams I mentioned, which ones did you guys wish won a championship? Let me know in the comments below. I talk NBA comparisons, amazing storylines, NBA history, and anything basketball that will interest you. Any interesting topics you guys want me to talk about, just write it down below. Don't forget to subscribe. More good stuff coming soon. See you next time.